Hi, I'm Annette Pasternak, the Stop Skin Picking Coach. I'm going to talk to you today about harnessing the power of positive habits, which you will need to do if you hope to be free of skin picking or some other body-focused repetitive behaviors like hair pulling. This is general, like this will help you understand habits and the power of habits in your life, regardless of the kind of things that you're working on and the things that you'd like to get better at in your life. But of course, I'm going to specifically give you some ideas for the body-focused repetitive behaviors, or BFRBs, like skin picking. So you start by getting a little high five. Okay, the reason for this is that probably you beat yourself up a lot over a lot of different things. We tend to have that tendency to always be like down on ourselves for the things that we're not doing, for the things that we're not accomplishing, where we're failing, but we rarely acknowledge the positive steps. And when we acknowledge the positive steps, which I'm trying to do here with the little puppy high five, when we acknowledge this positive steps, it actually keeps us going and leads us to take more positive steps. Okay, so yeah, pat yourself on the back just for watching this presentation today. Now, that's great, yet in order to really reverse the progression of your behavior, your body-focused repetitive behavior, like hair pulling or skin picking, you'll actually need to take positive steps every day. Okay, this is really hard work to reverse basically one of these behaviors or one or more of these behaviors. And so really it's not good enough every once in a while to do something positive. You've got to take positive steps every day. And the easiest and most successful way to take positive steps every day is to make the positive actions habits, the ones that you need. So obviously that's why the presentation today. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is a talk I gave at the TLC Foundation for Body-Focused Repetitive Behaviors a few days ago. Okay, so what are you going to leave with today? Even though maybe you're not leaving, if you're listening, watching this at your house, I want you to understand what habits are and why they exist. I think that's really important. Why you need to recreate positive habits. And really important, you need strategies for making and keeping habits. Making habits and keeping habits are tricky, right? How many times have we tried to consistently do something that we know is good for us? The bulk of the time I'll talk about strategies. You will identify what actions you would like to make habits, what you think is most important for you. So I want you to make sure you have a paper and pen with you. So pause this if you don't and go get one. And you'll prioritize and plan how you'll make them habits. So I really hope that you do all this before you're done watching the video or right after you're watching the video. And that's the most important thing, right? Like it's kind of an easy, even though I gave you a high five, kind of an easy action step to watch a video. It's more important and a little bit of a bigger step to apply what you learn. So that's really important. Really like make a commitment in your mind right now that that's what you're going to do. Okay, so what is a habit? I got this off of, I think, the Google dictionary. And so a habit is a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah. Anyway, so I really can't beat this over the head more. In order to break a bad habit that's really ingrained in your nervous system, you're going to have to make positive habits. There's just no way around it. You're going to have to make some habits that interfere with the BFRB, body-focused repetitive behaviors. You're going to have to make habits that reduce your need for doing them. You're going to have to make some serious positive habits. Okay, so what are habits? Habits are automatic, so they're actions or a series of actions that we don't have to think about anymore. the brain is making it easy on itself when you make a habit. It saves like a sequence of events or movements, so you can just call it up. It's like the brain's just like, okay, I'm going to press play on this one. We've done this one before. And then it can save brain power and use it for other things. So a really nice example, it's more called a pattern rather than a habit, but I think it's a good analogy, is walking. So, when a baby learns to walk, it's a big process. But once you learn to walk, I mean, it's totally automatic. Like, you don't really think about it, right? So you can walk and talk. You can think and talk, think and walk. You can basically, like, unless you've gotten injured or something hurts, you don't even think about walking, right? Or how you're walking. It's totally automatic unless you bring specific attention to it. So we would love, you'd love to make your positive habits this kind of thing. I think a good example of a positive habit that you've got automatically, hopefully, is brushing your teeth. Now, I don't know if you remember, or maybe you have kids, so you know the situation with them, but like brushing your teeth, I mean, it used to be something that you didn't want to do. Your parents had to bug you to do it. But now it's like, isn't it the easiest thing pretty much that you do all day? So it's a total habit. Now, as far as how you form a habit, this picture is from The Power of Habit. Really fantastic book by Charles Duhigg. If you're interested at all in reading about habits, go for that book. So good. So any habit starts with a cue. Sometimes we call it a trigger. In this case, they're kind of showing a little film on the teeth there, but the cue could be just like, going into the bathroom in the first thing in the morning or in the evening. That could be the cue to get you to brush your teeth. Could be a time, a cue. It could be a place. It could be just a feeling. Like, actually, in this example, he was giving a feeling of there's like stuff on your teeth. And then the routine that you're going to make is brushing your teeth, or that you have made. And there's a reward for that, right? And maybe in the beginning, it's not enough of a reward. That like, wow, your mouth feels kind of good and minty. It's smooth. Your teeth are smooth. Everything feels clean. Like when you're a kid, you don't quite care about that so much. But over time, that reward really makes you do the behavior again. You're just like, okay, I remember this thing feels good, so I want to do it again. And so there's this cycle. Okay, this habit cycle. And this can be true for good habits or bad habits, right? You have a cue and there's some kind of reward for it. And so that routine gets really fixed into being a habit. Okay, so how do habits work in our lives? So here we have, as you go across the x-axis, that's time. And as time goes on, like theoretically, if we have no habits, we stay the same. If we make positive habits, our lives improve. If we make negative habits, our lives kind of go down. And this is true in whatever arena we're talking about: health, relationships, career, etc. Now, the reason that it starts kind of like a straight line, and really only after a lot of time do these things start to add up and make a bigger and bigger impact. For this, let's just think about, like, I guess if you don't brush your teeth, let's stick with that for a moment. So negative, don't brush your teeth. Any given day, it doesn't really matter probably in your life if you don't brush your teeth. You're like not going to get a cavity in a day. If someone thinks your breath is stinky, they might give you the benefit of the doubt for that day. So there's really not much effect of, slipping, of doing something negative for a day. But if you do that negative thing for all the days, you're going to have some big consequences from that. And the same thing is with positive habits. I mean, you know, meditate for a day. Okay, is that helpful? You know, it probably won't make a big difference to your day whether you do it or not if you just do it one day. But if you make a habit of it over time, if you practice it over time, it's going to have a huge positive impact on your life. Okay, so this is called the slight edge, or the compound effect, it's also called. This principle that, you know, over time, these little things add up and impact your life greatly. So another example would be like, you know, do you have a glass of water or a soda with lunch? Any given day? Probably doesn't make a huge difference in your life, but over time it might. Okay, so why do we need habits? All right, so 3 big reasons we need to make habits is so we don't have to rely on willpower, for one. This is a really easily exhaustible resource, willpower. And we think, you know, we think willpower is what we need. We think that we don't have enough willpower. You know, if we can't stop doing this behavior, it's our fault. We don't have enough willpower. This is not true. Okay, so this is not why you do this behavior and why you can't stop. And really, like, nobody has enough willpower. If you look at the top performing people in, you know, any arena, athletes or business people or whatever you're talking about, you know, if you think these people have tons of willpower, well, let's put it this way. Anyone you suspect, you're like, wow, they must have so much willpower to do that all the time. Probably it's just that they've made habits. They made positive habits. Otherwise, any positive action is a new thing you have to do. You have to will yourself to do it every day. But if it's a habit, you don't have to will yourself, and you can save your willpower for other things. Okay? So another thing you don't want to have to rely on is memory. Okay? So memory is also really hard, and that's something like, you know, if you want to have to remember, like, oh, yeah, I have to do this thing and that thing and the other thing. Like, stopping picking is picking or pulling, it's such a multifaceted thing. There is so much that contributes to it. So many aspects of lifestyle and specific strategies that, you know, on every given day, you don't want to have to remember what all these are. It's just not going to work. And you don't want to have the willpower to know what these are. Another thing is making constant decisions. So, should I meditate or not? Should I exercise today or not? What kind of thing? This is exhausting. This is called decision fatigue. And we exhaust ourselves with a lot of decisions. You know, social media is like causing a lot of little decisions, like, should I like this or not? You know, be aware of what you're wasting your decision-making power on too. So when you make habits, you don't have to rely on willpower, you don't have to rely on memory, you don't have to rely on making decisions. Okay, what habits do you need to make in order to stop picking or pulling? Let's go to that. So you need to learn some things about what is affecting your behavior in the first place. So hopefully you've learned some of this. I mean, you can watch more of my YouTube videos if you have no clue what's affecting your behavior. Some of these things you learn in therapy, stuff like that. This could be specific strategies to interrupt your BFRB patterns, your body focused repetitive behavior. Or it could be lifestyle changes. So, you know, these are some things that frequently affect picking and pulling behaviors are, you know, what you're eating, if you're getting enough sleep and good quality sleep, if you're getting exercise, and then are you having some ways to relax? Because a lot of times we're using the picking as an attempt to get us to calm down. Okay, so it's really important to prioritize other ways of calming ourselves down. Okay, so all these things you might want to think about making some habits around. It's a lot, right? So you can stop the video and write down some ideas that you have specifically. Okay, so strategies for making new habits. First strategy, start small. Okay, so this is where a lot of us mess up and give up, is that we're too ambitious, right? We're like, I'm going to start a habit. Like, I'm going to meditate for an hour every day, you know, or even 20 minutes every day. And it's just like ends up being not sustainable, you know, because it's too easy to talk ourselves out of it. Okay, there's this, like, you know, your mind will resist all these things. So you want to bring the habit down to the point where it's so small, the action you're trying to get yourself to do each day, it's so small that your mind really can't talk you out of it. Or that would be really wimpy if you can't get your mind to win over, say, doing one push-up. Okay, so starting small, doing a push-up if you want to, you know, if your thing is I have to do some exercise. Doing a push-up, actually, that's the hardest part, is doing the first thing, taking the first step. And if you do one push-up, great. You know, that's like starting your habit. If you do that every day, chances are once you do one, you're going to want to do some more. So that's great. But remember, you can't do 0 versus like a ton. Yeah, resist 0 as an option, okay? Because you got to make this habit. So at least do the action, even if it's like the smallest amount of the action that you can do. Okay, so that's, oh, here's some other ideas. So sometimes the hardest thing about working out is changing into workout clothes. Although workout clothes are becoming kind of so comfortable and whatnot. So sometimes for some people that won't work, but then you can like maybe step outside the door, where that's the thing. Or step outside the door, or maybe like get in the car to go to the gym, or walk around the block. Like if you want to walk or run, you just start. If it's like too hard for your mind to, you know, you're just like, oh, I really don't want to do it, then the rule, you know, whatever, make up your rule. Like I have to get outside the door in my running shoes, or I have to get around the block. And then if I still don't want to do anymore, I don't have to. I can come home. But chances are, again, you probably want to do more at that point. A 1-minute meditation practice. You know, this works. There was somebody, when I was giving this workshop at the TLC conference, who, you know, she said, yeah, she started doing a minute of meditation at night, and it made such a difference. Like she stopped pulling her hair until she stopped doing the habit. And then she started the habit again of meditation, and then the hair pulling got better again. So this is awesome. You know, we think like such a little amount of anything won't make a difference, but it will. And most importantly, it will make you make the habit. And so later, you know, we talked about the reward that you get. When you do this often, you will start to remember the reward. You're like, yeah, I feel so much better if I don't meditate, or I don't do my BFRB as much if I do. So the positive habit. So you start to like, the reward starts to get internalized. Like exercise feels good, and so you do it. If you can't even do that, like 3 deep breaths. Making a habit of 3 deep breaths really can be great. You know, that can have an impact on you, believe it or not. Okay, so that's the first strategy, starting small. Second strategy is to tie it to something you already do. So this is really important because it needs to, like, you know, we saw in the other slide, it needs to have a cue. Okay, when do you do this habit? The easiest thing is to tie it to another habit that you already have. So, you know, it could be just like first thing in the morning, pretty much, after you use the toilet, because that's probably a habit. Most of us go straight to the bathroom in the morning. You can do that. Or, let's see, Or maybe when you arrive home, if that's a big trigger for picking or pulling, maybe, you know, you do your exercise or your little meditation or whatever you want to do, your deep breathing. Maybe that's the time. So if you always put your bag down, if that's a always thing, just be like, okay, I put my bag down and then I go sit down and breathe or whatever. Could be when you reach for the remote. If television is a big time for your behavior and you want to make a habit of, say, putting some gloves on or picking up a fidget toy or some knitting or something, you know, make sure it happens every time when you sit down for a meal. So that might be a good time to do some deep breaths. It's going to calm you down and you'll digest your food better. Okay, so I mean, it could be a time, it could be a place or an action that you tie it to. Here's another strategy. So set reminders. So you can be all low tech and stick a Post-it somewhere. Like, you know, if you need to tape over your fingertips when you sit down at your computer, or you want to like get yourself in a more calm, focused state and do some breathing or something, just put a Post-it up there. Or there's phone reminders now. So that's great if you're more of a phone person. So you can do reminders at a certain time of day, or you can do them upon reaching a location. So you can remind yourself when you get home to do some centering breaths or something. You can remind yourself a certain time of day. I had a coaching client who would she was really busy at home, like home was too crazy. So at work, she would set an alarm at 10 and a set alarm at 2. And she would just do a mindful check-in, you know, just notice what was going on, what was she feeling in her body, what was she thinking about. And she'd actually jot that down, especially what she's thinking about. And then she'd say, is there something I can do about this? You know, especially if she was having some negative thoughts. Okay, so reminders, another really important strategy for making new habits. Next strategy is accountability. So unfortunately, like most of us can't get ourselves to do anything. So Gretchen Rubin, in her book, Better Than Before, I think she cites some research that, or, you know, her framework is that 80% of people are the type that need external accountability for accomplishing anything. So here's some ways that you can stay accountable. I mean, you can track it on a calendar. You can use the Freedom Companion. So this is in the YouTube description of all my videos. I list my book and my primary book on skin picking, and then I have these Freedom Companions for skin picking and for hair pulling and for nail biting, separate books. So you can use the Freedom Companion, and really it's got a checklist on every single day. I mean, there's a lot of positive actions that you can take that are going to help reduce your behaviors. So I can't even remember, there's at least 20 of them, 20 positive actions. And it's all right there, so all you have to do is check it off. Okay, and that book's got some other things in it too. So there's a video that I'll link to about the Freedom Companion. So I'll link that in the upper right here. There are apps. So, you know, I'm not a big phone app person. So I've looked at these and I've done some research on apps for making new habits. And so combination of the research and clients that I've had that have used apps, I think these two are the best habit-making apps, and they can really help you every day. You can have a friend or a partner. So if you know somebody who's working on either the same thing or something else that wants, you know, you for accountability, you guys can touch base with each other, or you can, you know, if you're both trying to make the same habit, like let's say exercising, you can obviously go do that together. Also, you can get a coach, okay? So this is mostly what I'm helping people do. I mean, I help people really figure out what's contributing to their picking, what's reducing it, what works to reduce it, and then really making habits of those things. So a coach can help you as well. Now, strategies for keeping habits. Okay, this is really important. Avoiding all or nothing thinking, because this is when we give up, is like when it's too much, or when we miss a day, we're like, oh, I blew it. I missed it. I just, that's it. You just stop doing it. But really, that's okay. You stop doing it for a day, do it the next day or the day after that. We have this thought that like, oh, we're on a roll. We're doing it. It's great. And then we don't do it for a day and it's like, oh, we stopped. We're done. We failed or whatever. No, just keep doing. One way, that we avoid the all or nothing is you just, reduce it to the minimum. If you can't do it, if you can't really make time for it, just do the minimum bit that you can do, every day that you can. Okay, and if you stop, like I kind of already alluded to it, if you fall off, just get back on. And don't give up. Yeah, that's the only time you really end up failing at this, is if you give up. So don't give up. Okay, now there's a lot here. There's a lot of positive actions you need to take, really, to get your picking or pulling under control, to get healthy, all of that. So how do we avoid getting overwhelmed by all the many habits it seems like we need to make? So the most important thing is just master one at a time. Just start somewhere and then add in. So you start with one, okay? And you want to be smart about it. You want to prioritize. So there's something called a keystone habit. And a lot of people have this. For example, like for some people, exercise is such a keystone habit. And what I mean by that is it tends to make everything better. Keystone habit is like one habit that if you do that one, it's going to help so many things. So for some people, like I said, exercise is the one. And when they're exercising, they're feeling better, like their mood is better. They start making better choices about what they're going to eat. They have more energy to cook. They are sleeping better. And so being rested, that sets off a whole other load of positive changes. So, exercise could be one thing. The Freedom Companion could be a keystone habit too, because it's like, okay, if you just commit to doing your Freedom Companion each day, to filling that out, then you're going to be so much more likely to do some of those things in it. Day after day, you're not going to just not want to check anything off. So that's one habit that can influence a whole bunch of actions that can become habits. Yeah, so that's what I was just talking about. Start with the keystone habit. Here's another example. So the Keen bracelet, the awareness bracelet that, it buzzes. Let's say if you're bringing your hand to your head, if you're a scalp picker, and it's going to buzz. And so all of a sudden you're aware and you can put your hand down. This is also in the YouTube description. There's a link to this. So you can get it through that. Anyway, so that might be a keystone habit for your reducing your picking or pulling, because this is, you can't, reduce the behavior if you're not aware of it. So that's one thing that can help you be aware. And the habit, of course, would be to put it on right after your shower, and then you'll have it on all day. Okay, so habit stack. This is another thing. So this is where you have a routine of habits that once you make one habit, you can add another one right on top of it. So have that be the cue for the next habit, and then the next habit. So for example, my morning routine, like I always have a routine in the morning. So it starts with a glass of water. Then I do some vigorous jumping around for a few minutes. I need to elevate my blood pressure and cortisol, having some stuff with that. And so do a little bit of vigorous exercise, and then I go to my meditation. I sit down. At times I used to start with some breathing before the meditation, but lately I haven't been doing that. And then after my meditation, I do a little prayer, and then I get some tea or coffee, and I sit on the couch and I read something useful, like personal growth, or something to help my business, something that will be a positive thing for me. So I've got, if you notice, that's at least 5 positive steps that I take in the morning, and it becomes so easy because it's a habit, to do everything in that order. You don't have to make decisions, should I do this or what should I do next? It just, one thing flows to the next. And it's really ideal to have morning and evening routines. So for example, in the evening, that might be, calming down. So I don't know, maybe if you like to take a shower in the evening, you would be showering maybe. You could do some stretching, listen to some music. You could, if you wanted to do some breathing or meditation, then maybe you I like this would be morning and evening, something like the 5-minute journal, or this is when you could be doing your Freedom Companion. Just, you don't start with a routine if you're doing nothing. You start again with one thing at a time, but have in mind that the ideal thing is really to do a few things in the morning and a few things in the evening, or maybe after you get home. That might be a good time for you too. If you need to get in a calm, focused state because it's going to make you pick or pull less, then you might want to do that right when you get home. Okay, so last but not least, and very important, what is your plan? So people are actually so much more successful with a written plan. This has been confirmed by research. So definitely make sure you take a few moments after this, after you finish this recording, to really work out what your plan is. What are you going to start with? What maybe are some other things that you want to make habits, and go for it. So have a list of habits, prioritize, and master. And again, remember, 80% of us can't do anything without external accountability. So my website is stopskinpickingcoach.com. You also have a link to it below in the YouTube description, as well as some of the other things you've thought of. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and please comment. What habits are you going to make, and where are you going to start? Please write a comment. Here's some good habit books. I talked about some of these. I didn't talk about the Miracle Morning. That's a really nice, if you want to be motivated and do a whole bunch of things. He has 6 things for you to do. And he recommends you get up an hour early, but he kind of acknowledges the whole all or nothing thing, and you could just do the whole thing in 6 minutes, where you do a minute of each of these things that he suggests. And I also love the 5-minute journal. I think I just mentioned that. That's, in the morning you would write 3 things that you're grateful for, and 3 things that would be awesome to do that day. I think I'm remembering this right. I used to do it. I might do it again. And then 1 affirmation. And then in the evening, you write 3 awesome things that happened to that day. It really, going back to the beginning of this talk, it really gets you to focus on the positive, to give it a little attention, which is very important. Okay, and then that's what I was talking about, the Freedom Companion. That's the hair pulling one there. The skin picking looks the same. And the compound effect, the slight edge, those I mentioned, at least as far as the effects rather than the books.